successfully hopped up on sugar. That was the plan. Very deliberate, have them have their sugar before. So hi everybody, I'm Kim Miles. Wonderful to see so many friendly faces, and we are so excited to be here. I just want to take a quick moment to thank Kelly and President Tony. Do they call you President Tony? Okay, President Tony, for having me here. It's been an absolute privilege to work with Regis and everybody on the staff. Kelly has the most amazing team. So thank you to Kelly and her team, all of you. I love you all. You know who you are. I love you. We're going to start off with a little icebreaker before we get to our little chat over here on the stage. So here's what we're going to do. For all my friends, thanks for sitting in the front. Mike and Kelly and Dr. Kara and Bridget. Appreciate it so much. We're going to start with a little icebreaker. So here's what we're going to do, just a little quick one. I love to do this because it really facilitates getting to know people in your community, and Regis is a wonderful community unto itself. So we're going to ask each person to go and get with a person they don't know. That's the key. So don't grab your pal. Please go with somebody that you don't know. Introduce yourself, and what you have to do is you have to share with that person something they would be surprised to know about you. Something they would be surprised to know about you. So for students, please don't necessarily just talk about your studies or your major or the sport that you play on campus. Dig a little deeper. Like one time when I did this icebreaker in another event, somebody literally went to igloo making school. It's a thing, you can look it up. Dig a little deeper, right? Try to find the most interesting thing. And for those folks who are not students, try not to make it about your profession. Could be about your family, but dig deeper, okay? So we're just gonna take a few minutes, find a pal that you don't know, make a new friend, and we're gonna have a couple of maybe special people share to see what of the funniest ones are, or the most interesting ones are. Maybe there's an extra cupcake in it for them. You never know, as a prize. Right, if you had salted caramel, maybe you'll also get red velvet, if you're lucky, right? Maybe we can nominate people, so if you heard something really super special, then you can nominate that person to share. All right, so take a moment, find a new friend, let's start sharing. Much good sharing going on. I almost hate to break up the party, but we have a schedule to keep, so let's all get back to our seats. I love the sharing. Loving the sharing. So did everybody make a new friend? Yeah? Everybody made new friends? Okay, so now we're gonna get some brave volunteers. So is there anybody in the audience who for sure thinks that they spoke to somebody who has one of them? Oh, look at girlfriend, come on up here. Who do I have here? You are Amy. Come on up here, Amy. Let me help you. Amy, everybody give a round of applause for Amy for volunteering. Oh, well, you never know. She might then say that she's gonna volunteer you. So Amy's gonna share. Who is your partner? Raise your hand, partner. Okay, here we go.
Maria and Susan, and so they're a mother-daughter team. Really interesting. We found out we're in neighboring towns, and the daughter started college at age 15, so she just started at Regis as a junior, so she is going to graduate before she can even have a beer.
What?
That's pretty good. Legally.
Legally. Come up here, girl wonder. Come here. Cupcakes. James, cupcakes. Oh my God, I'm standing next to the smartest person I know. Will you just rub off on me? I need to be smarter. That's tremendous. I've never heard of that. Has anybody heard of that before? Can we have a round of applause for this fabulous Maria? And her mother homeschooled her? Dude, what's in the water where you live? Where do you live? Where do you live? Kingston, Mass. Okay, property values just went up in Kingston. I'm just saying. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. That was amazing. I know, right in those stairs, right? How crass. We make our guests topple off the stage. Who can top that? That was like a tough act to follow. Oh, a handsome gentleman, come join me, please, sir. Some fine folks. I love this. It's like, I'm gonna one-up ya. That's a tough act to follow, sir. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. All right, come join me. What is your name?
Joe.
Hi, Jim. Hi, pleasure. What would you like to share? Or is it about you or is it about your person?
It's about my person.
Oh, your person.
So strange enough, here we are sitting in Boston, Mass.
Yes.
We're two parents, and we're both from California, randomly. And one summer to make money, he sold cemetery plots. But he works for Salesforce in San Francisco, so obviously the route to be working for big successful companies is to sell the space for dead people.
Very good. Thank you. I think that deserves a cupcake. Where's James? A cupcake. And you can point out your friend who also is the death plot seller. That deserves some sugar, don't you think? I think so. Yeah. What is your name, sir? Okay, well, thank you for making people who pass more comfortable. We appreciate it. All right, one more. We've got time for one more, then we're going to start the show. Who wants to volunteer? Ooh, Dr. Kara. M'lady.
Okay. I know. Kelly's trying her hardest about this stuff, right? Well, I just had to top your igloo training. Okay. Because I met with Jill, who is a trained, licensed magician.
Yes! Jill, I bet you're going to make this cupcake I'm going to give you disappear now, aren't you? Yeah. Doesn't Doogie Howser, isn't there like a special, isn't he a magician?
Yeah, Doogie and I did a road show together.
Oh. And isn't there a special place in LA? It's like the Magician's Castle, and you have to be voted in, right? What's it called? What's the password? So do you have to be a licensed musician? Do you have to be a licensed musician to go into the Magic Castle? Do you have to be the licensed kind to go into the...
No, you just get somebody who can certify you.
Okay. What's your best trick?
Let's see. Probably floating a lady.
What? I will pay you if you float President Tony right now. This will be the best conference ever. It'll be sold out for years to come. Remember the year that we floated President Tony? Seriously? You float people? James, she gets 2 cupcakes for floating people. Give everybody a round of applause. That was great. Okay, now that we've set the tone, so Kelly, my timekeeper, we're starting exactly at 2:30. We're right on time. I love being punctual. It's part of my whole process. Okay, so. Oh, and Kelly said, of course I knew she was funny. Well, this is, to me, I have been, I'm saying we're friends. I'm sorry, but we've been friends for a long time. I stalk them on social media. That qualifies as friendship, I think. My guests today are a remarkable pair of women who have accomplished so much in such a short period of time. We're going to hear all about their story. Please welcome to the stage the co-founders and CEOs, mother and daughter team of Wicked Good Cupcakes, Tracey, Noonan, and Dani Vilagie. Okay, so if you haven't had your cupcake yet, I feel sad for you. It is, I think, the best cupcake that I've ever had. I'm going to tell you a little anecdote just to get started, which is, I had a meeting in Boston. They have a little kiosk in Faneuil Hall, right? Is that still the only, the only retail location? I was in a meeting in Boston in a building. I had on 4 or 5 inch heels, as I typically do. It was a sweltering hot day. I didn't bring any flip-flops with me, which I normally do. And I was not far away from the kiosk, and I said, blisters be damned, I'm going to walk over to the kiosk, and I literally bought every single flavor you offer. I brought them home, because I've been following them ever since I saw them on Shark Tank, and I've been obsessed with them ever since, and I needed to taste their product. So I brought every flavor home. When I got home, I had to ice my feet. I'm not even kidding. That is how bad the blisters were, and I want you to know, worth every blister. Wouldn't you agree for everybody who's had the cupcake, right? Come on. They're so good. Okay, so we came up with this conference idea, again, as Kelly mentioned, because we really want to foster the foundation in our students here at Regis that you can imagine big things, and big things can come from very small sparks. And so there was no greater story for us to highlight today than one of my very favorite stories, which is that of Wicked Good Cupcakes. So just to put it into perspective for you, and we're going to get to this in detail, but Wicked Good Cupcakes, in their first year, okay, when they got the deal from Kevin O'Leary, they are the highest return deal ever for Kevin on Shark Tank. The highest return. Does that, a round of applause for that, yeah, right? Okay? In their first year of sales, they grew 600% in the first year after their deal on Shark Tank, and they grossed 1.5 million in sales. Is that accurate? 1.5 million in sales. They are now a national brand. They're also starting to franchise trucks, right? They just signed a deal with Jenny Garth from Beverly Hills 90210, for those of you in the audience who understand what I'm talking about. I know there's some youngsters here. To do pies in a jar, so they've now morphed into pies in a jar. And here's the deal, we're gonna get into this, but Kevin lent them $75,000. That's a relatively small investment. If you've all watched Shark Tank, that's a pretty small investment. Huge for you to ask for, but small, relatively speaking. They paid that back in 6 weeks. Is that accurate? 6 weeks it took them to pay it back. And here's how they did it. It's not even like they wrote a big check and paid him back. Here's what they did. They gave him $1 from every cupcake. That's 75,000 cupcakes that they sold in 6 weeks. So get your mind around that, right? That's what we're talking about here in these two powerhouse girl bosses. So, and then of course he gets 45 cents for every jar sold in perpetuity, so he's no dummy. That's why he's Kevin O'Leary. But before we even get to Shark Tank, we really want to ask you, and we want you to sort of talk about the fact that how the heck did this even get started? How did you even think to put a cupcake in a jar?
Well, first we'd like to thank Regis College for having us here. Thank you so much. It's such an honor, and we're so happy to be here with all of you on this fabulous weekend. Our business really was not a business in the beginning. It was a hobby. We started Wicked Good without the intention of starting a business, so that's pretty amazing in and of itself. And basically, Dani was my youngest. She had moved out of the house, and as any empty nester will know, when your youngest leaves, it's really heartbreaking, and I really wanted to have an excuse to see her every week. So I asked her to take a cake decorating class with me, and she's such a good daughter, she agreed. So once a week we got together, we went and took a cake decorating class, and all we did was we posted what we were creating on Facebook. And then friends and family started to order from us, and before we knew it, we had some corporate clients. I'm not even sure how that happened. Now I want you to imagine that we're baking in our kitchen at home and we can only bake 24 cupcakes at a time. Now we're getting orders for 200, 400 cupcakes. So for us, the big question became, are we going to keep this a hobby and slow our roll, or are we going to make this a full-blown business? And we decided to go ahead and bite the bullet and make it a business, and that's what we did.
Now, what's really interesting, I don't know how many people here bought the book, but I bought the book a long time ago, and I devoured that book, and it just had so many wonderful life lessons and business lessons, and a lot of things that were just super relatable to me. But one of the things I learned in the book was just how many different types of jobs you have had before you ever became the queen of cupcakes. I have listed here, this might just be some of them. You were a horse trainer, is that right?
Yes.
A photographer, a massage therapist, and a real estate broker.
Yes.
So you had all of those professions before you ever landed on this empire.
Right. The horse training went along with my animal talent agency. So I trained animals for television and movies. I'm actually in the IMDb Rolodex.
Database for movies?
Yeah.
For what movie did you train horses?
Well, not horses.
Or animals?
Animals. We worked on The Love Letter, which is a really old Ellen DeGeneres, Tom Selleck movie. So we had a deer in that, and
Do you still keep in touch with the deer? Do you guys Snapchat?
Only with the poodles.
Only with the poodles. I know you're big dog people too.
Yes.
Yes. So you were, and those jobs were important to you because at the time you were a single mother. You were supporting, was it 3 children?
Yes.
Yes.
So basically, the biggest lesson that I learned, especially as a single parent, and I was not fortunate, I didn't get to go to college. You guys are all so lucky, and you should be thanking your parents every day. I had no choice but to survive. So I had to do what I had to do in order to earn a living because I had 3 children to take care of. And I think that was a really important thing for me to experience because it taught me that one way may not work, but there's always another way to do something. And that's really important when you start a business or you create a service industry, whatever you decide to do with your life. Don't just look at something and see that it's difficult or take no for an answer. There's always a way around a problem. There's always a solution, and you can always figure something out.
Dani, in speaking with your mom when we had, when we were preparing for this, she said something to me that I thought was really profound, and I'd love for you to expand upon this. She said, and I think this is a great lesson for the students in the audience, you need to really appreciate what this means, which is, Tracey said, you don't have to reinvent fire to be successful, right? You took a commodity, you took a cupcake. There's lots of people who bake cupcakes, but what you did is that you found something that was lacking in the market, which was the right way to ship them, and you became the expert in terms of how to ship the best possible product. Talk to me a little bit about, what that means to you in terms of kind of getting your head around, basically in 2011, you opened the doors to the shop in Cohasset, right?
Right.
And then, there was a line out the door of 1,000 people. It was probably blowing your mind. You're thinking to yourself, how are we even going to do this?
Yeah.
But you're thinking it's cupcakes. And talk a little bit about that. Just in terms of not reinventing the wheel, that you just took an idea like cupcakes and you said, we can do this better and we can, get it to more people.
Right. Well, we needed to find a way to ship the product. That was the biggest issue that we were having because we were getting calls or emails from people across the country going, I was in town when your store opened and I love it, but I want to have it here. So the best thing to do is to try other companies and see how they ship it. So we bought from every cupcake company that we knew shipped product, and honestly, we were really disappointed with everything that we had. Nothing was fresh. And UPS and FedEx, they're not going to delicately carry your package to the door and place it gently out of the sun. No, they're probably going to drop kick it if they've had a bad day. So one night, my stepdad, her husband, was up, and we saw that a show about canning product, and he woke my mom up and was like, you should do that. And at first we thought, oh, that's a little weird. I don't know if you really want to do that, but what we did was we tried it out. We shipped it out across the country to other family and friends, and we were like, be honest with us, how did it arrive? And everyone said it was perfect. So that's how we kind of got the idea to do that, to ship it. All it takes is just a little weird idea, and sometimes it might work out to benefit you in the long run.
Well, that's the whole reason we're here, right? Is about the fact that big dreams really are ignited by small sparks. So what I think is also really, am I having a hot flash or is it just really warm in here?
I'm a little warm too.
Pardon me. This is so gauche, but I am dying. Yeah, having a hot flash. I've been out of school a long time, kids. I'm sorry. What I think is really interesting about that story, it's not that you had some sort of MBA or you had no business plan, right? Scott woke up and didn't he wake you up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and you're like, why are you waking me up at 1 o'clock in the morning? And he watched the show about canning, right? And then
Exactly.
that's where we sort of got to where we are. But the fact that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, I think everybody really needs to understand that. On Shark Tank, Lori Grenier's, her famous quote is, she always says that she likes to give deals to people who have built a better mousetrap, right? Isn't that the whole thing, to improve upon something that works well and to find a void in the marketplace and to capitalize on it? So that's exactly what you did. So how do you get from being woken up by your husband at 1 o'clock in the morning, who watched on QVC or some nature channel about canning preserves, to applying for Shark Tank? How does that leap even happen?
So, for all of you who have watched Shark Tank, you know that it's important to have some sales and to know your numbers. And We opened the doors for our shop and we're selling cupcakes in October of 2011. In December of 2011, we decided to put the cupcake jars online. We started our business with $30,000. We had no money for marketing.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt that. So the $30,000, if you'd like to share, where did the $30,000 come from? Was it your own personal savings? Did friends and family help out?
401k. It was a loan from a 401k.
So for all of you business and accounting majors, take heed. 401ks are important, yeah.
Yes. And that was all that Scott was going to give us. He gave us the $30,000 and said, sink or swim, this is it. So when the idea of the jar came about and we beta tested it, and by beta test I mean shipped to friends and family and said, what do you think? We decided to put the cupcake jars online, and our only intention was to sell enough cupcake jars to pay our rent, which was approximately $3,000 a month. So this was our goal. It just so happened that a student from a college on the North Shore bought his communications professor 2 cupcake jars, and I distinctly remember handwriting her note. And she took the jars, and she was traveling over the holiday with them. And Logan let her through with the cupcake jars and said, oh, those look delicious. She kept one for the return flight, and when she was at McCarran Airport in Nevada, TSA stopped her and said to her, you can't take this through. The frosting's a gelatinous substance. We can't let this through. This is a security threat. And it happened to be our red velvet cupcake jar, which we later renamed to National Security Red Velvet. And basically, she, being a communications professor, saw this as an opportunity, took a picture of the TSA agent holding this jar and posted it on Boing Boing. And the whole story went viral. So Dani and I overnight were a national security threat. The Department of Homeland Security was on our website 200 times the month of December.
Oh my God.
And we were on late night talk, not us, but our jars and the story of our cupcakes were on, late night talk shows, and it was just huge. And the TSA actually took a lot of heat for this. So in January, they came back out and said, this was not your average run-of-the-mill cupcake. Thank you. So once again, we had this fabulous PR moment, and so the jars started to sell. We started to see repeat customers. We started to track the data, and that's when I said, okay, now the cat's out of the bag. People are seeing we're doing this. I want to apply to Shark Tank before someone else does. And so in April of 2012, I applied to Shark Tank, heard back from casting within 3 days, went through the whole process, which is very, very cumbersome and tedious. We were accepted, and they flew us out to film our segment in July of 2012, and then we aired the following April. It was season 4, and it was the first full season of Shark Tank, so we actually aired the end of April, and that's literally how we got on the show.
Okay, so what I want to really know, I mean, obviously, I know you for non-disclosure reasons, you can't share a lot about the actual process, and I fully respect that. I want to know, how do you mentally prepare? I mean, obviously, you're preparing because you're going through the numbers, and I know that in the book you say know your numbers. But I'd like for you, and maybe Dani, you want to take this question about the type of mental toughness or the mental preparation that it takes for something like this. I mean, this is literally can be a make or break moment for any brand and for people as well, right? I mean, you're going on, had either one of you ever been on television before?
Just little things here and there,
Okay.
like the news.
So this was pretty huge, right? And they probably give you what, like 30 seconds to do your elevator pitch, and I'm sure you practiced that a million times.
We were practicing our pitch in our sleep. We would go over it all the time because you had to have it perfect. And when they actually fly you out to California, you're not even guaranteed a spot on the show.
Oh, you're not?
No.
So they choose you and you could get out there and then you could not go on the show?
Right. I mean, the only way you can mental prepare yourself is with your numbers and all the facts that, you work so hard to remember. And then they fly you out there. You have to be hush-hush from everybody else. There's a lot of secrecy there. So, and I felt, I don't know, it was really difficult for some parts.
What would be a reason that they wouldn't then let you go onto the show after already having been flown to LA?
I can answer this. So what happens is when you see the show and Laurie's in the same dress for like 900 episodes,
Yeah.
it's because they tape several segments in one day.
Right.
So they have a schedule, and what happens is, you don't see this, but we were in front of the Sharks for 45 minutes.
Yep.
Some people can be in front of them for 2 hours. It depends on how your pitch goes. So if you're at the end of the day for filming, you could be bumped, and that's it. You fall out of the schedule, which would
You
be
go home.
really disappointing. The other thing that they do is
And no guarantee to be able to go back on the show?
No.
Nope.
So in other words,
That's
like
it.
they've qualified
If
if they
they've run
want you, but
overtime.
if they run over, there's no guarantee they'll bring you back.
No.
No.
Do they
have
ever
a
bring
new
anybody
schedule.
back if they run over?
I don't know the answer
don't
to
think
that.
so.
They basically
Whoa.
they give you no guarantees. The other thing they do is they flew us out on a Saturday, and that Sunday night we had to do our pitch, like a pre-pitch for all the network executives. So people from Sony, at the time it was FinMax, that was Mark Burnett's production company, ABC Disney. There's like 30 people all at laptops sitting there, and you have to launch into your pitch. So after you do that, you go back to your room and you literally wait for the call to find out if you're going to be scheduled.
How nervous were you? Dani, how nervous were you?
I was actually really excited. Mom was more nervous when we were going into the tank than I. I was like, jumping around. I was all excited, and I was trying to shake her. I'm like, oh, let's have fun with it. She's just like, no.
I literally felt like I was going to throw up.
She's
had
like,
that
please leave me
feeling.
alone. What would you do differently if you did it all over again? Is there something you would do differently about your pitch or how you prepared, or?
I don't think we'd do anything differently.
That's an amazing
Our deal
answer.
with Kevin was too good to pass up.
Now, when you get the deal from Kevin, right? And was he the only person who had given you a deal?
Yes.
Yes.
He was okay. So Kevin gives you the deal. Oh, I have a question. Did you have a shark that you really wanted when you walked in? Like, some people
Yeah.
like really want one person.
We wanted Barbara at first because she had taken on another cake company.
Okay.
So we
Daisy
thought-
Cakes?
Yes.
Oh, honey, I know all the episodes. You can quiz me. You won't stump me. Daisy Cakes, right?
But it just so happened it wasn't a Barber week, because if you remember, they alternate them. So we found out a couple weeks before we went out that we had Lori. And the other thing that they tell you is they make sure you know flavors that the Sharks will like. So Lori has a peanut allergy, so when we were handing out the jars, we knew Lori couldn't have anything with peanut butter, or we would probably kill her. Yeah.
I smell lawsuit. Just saying. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how Barbara, we thought, and now in retrospect, Barbara probably wouldn't have taken us because we would have been a conflict of interest.
Yeah. For
So
the Daisy Cakes.
things always seem
work
to
out.
work out
Yeah.
the way they're supposed to.
Is Kevin as sort of... Kevin, I do love you if you're watching. I'm sure this will probably get to him, but is he a sort of tough guy, or is he real softy when you get to know him? Comes across a little bit of a tough guy on the show.
You know what? He's very honest, and that's what I feel like every business needs, is someone, if he's harsh on us, it's just because he doesn't want us to waste our time on a product that's going to fail, and he doesn't like wasting time or money.
Have you ever disagreed with him fundamentally on a direction that he's asked you to take your business, and he suggested something that the both of you just kind of looked at each other and said, what is he thinking? Anything like that?
We've had minor disagreements, maybe on more operational things, and he's actually really good. He respects Scott, Dani, and I, not only as a business, but as a family, because there's a really unique dynamic that goes on with a family business, and he's smart enough to know that we actually know more about our business than he does. And Kevin is the type of person that we chose to use for media, more so than day-to-day. I'm not going to go to Kevin O'Leary and say, hey, where can I find a better box price? I'm going to go to Kevin O'Leary and say, hey, can you get me on Good Morning America? And the more businesses and the more seasons that pass, the more he has to spread himself out. So you want to use him to your best advantage and your best ability.
What's the single best piece of advice thus far that he's given you?
don't F with the mouse.
Oh, that was one of my favorites.
Meaning, so I had an idea. I wanted to start a sub-business called Wicked Baked, and I wanted to do edibles. And Kevin said, if you do edibles, Disney will never have you on Shark Tank again. So we did not embark on that area
That's
of business.
because Disney owns
Disney
ABC,
owns ABC.
so don't F with the mouse. Okay, you heard it here first, everybody. All the social posts, that's going to be the quote that we're going to see. Yeah. So, you know, it may seem to people in the audience, and if you read the book, and if you follow their story, if you research Tracey and Dani, it might just seem that this is like an overnight success story. I mean, in relatively short terms, you know, 2011, you open the doors. 2012, you apply to Shark Tank. And, you know, it's 2017, and here you are, and one of the fastest growing brands, your national brand. I mean, it is a short time frame. But what I want to be is, I want to keep it 100, keep it real for the audience, and certainly the students in the audience. I mean, there are a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs, certainly as a business and in a family business. That happens, and it isn't always smooth sailing. And so Tracey is really a beautiful writer, and lately she's been writing wonderful posts on LinkedIn. If you don't follow these ladies, you should, because the content that they're putting out there is really wonderful, and I read everything that Tracey puts out. I think it's great, and I repost it all the time. And there are two articles in particular that I want to talk about. The first one that came out recently was about what life throws at you. And the concept of pivoting, right? So for all the students in the audience, there are so many things being thrown at you, your day-to-day life, you're studying, you have sports, you have friends and family and social, and you're trying to pick a major, and you're trying to get an internship, and things don't always go your way. And I think that one of the greatest lessons in pivoting probably can come from both of you. I know that, Dani, you've been very open and honest about sharing, you know, some of the struggles that you've had with depression and bipolar. And also, Tracey, you know, you have dealt with your parents having Alzheimer's. And you really write about it beautifully in this article. And I was hoping maybe you could just share with the folks here today what it means to have to pivot and to continue living your life and conducting business at the same time.
I'll start. So we're a family business, obviously, and regardless if you're a family business or not, especially when you're a woman of my age, I'm 55, so I have parents who are getting older. And I found out 2 years ago that not only my father, but my mother also had Alzheimer's disease. And to top it off, my husband Scott found out at the time that his father was dying of cancer. And my parents were in Florida, literally driving around, getting lost, eating expired food. I could go on and on. My brothers and I had no idea this was happening. Scott's dad and mom were up in Stowe, Vermont, and they were just too far away for us to take care of them and deal with a rapidly growing business. So Scott and I were living in the North End in Boston. We got rid of our place there, and we moved to the South Shore and bought a 7,000 square foot house and moved everybody in with us. It was really difficult. It was extraordinarily stressful, but it was the right thing for us to do. And I think without the support of the people that we worked with, without the support of our family, it would have been even more difficult for us to manage. The message here is life just comes at you, and there's no predicting what's going to happen or what's going to be thrown at you. And you really need to be able to let your guard down and depend on other people and give up some of the responsibility that you have, and to let go of that stranglehold you may have of your business. It's really important. My parents have since been moved into a home. It got to a point where it was just too dangerous for them, quite honestly, to not be under 24-hour care. Scott's dad passed, and so his mom is still with us. But there's a lot of things that you're going to have to work through and learn to deal with. And like I said in my article, you think business is tough. Wait till life hits you up the side of the head and becomes part of your everyday existence. And we all need to know how to pivot. We all need to learn how to, like I said, share the responsibility and to depend on one another. And, you know, every single one of you has a story. Every single one of you has had to deal with something. And don't be afraid to reach out for help. I mean, I depended on Danielle so much during this time, and I'm so grateful that we had the coworkers that we had and the family that we had in order to be able to continue growing this machine, which was Wicked Good, and yet still remain human and deal with family.
Dani, do you want to share a little bit about your particular struggles? Because you've been so wonderfully open about it, and I think it's so brave. What I think is wonderful about the concept of sharing and asking for help, like Tracey just talked about, is you never know somebody else's story and struggle, right? You know, be kind always, because you never know what somebody else is going through that you're sitting across from. And, you know, by you sharing and being brave about sharing, you know, you're probably helping scores of people. So whatever it is that you'd like to share about your struggle would be really helpful today.
I'd kind of like to share about the struggle when we first opened, because everyone probably thinks that we're both millionaires and our life is swell and tra-la-la, but you know, when we first started this business, I didn't really know what we were getting into, because, you know, I was 21, 22, I think, and all my friends were in college and they were having a great time, and I'm like, I'm working like 14-hour days. I gave up being paid so we could pay the employees that we had. Me and my boyfriend, who's now my husband, we actually lost our apartment and had to move back in with Mom, so we were spending lots of time together. So that was really difficult, because I lost all my friends from the business at first, because everyone's like, you shouldn't do this because you're not going to go anywhere, and everyone was really, really mean about it. And
Have those people now seen your success? Have any of those?
they're still in the same place that they were when I left, and I don't feel bad about it whatsoever, about the choices I made. And when we actually first opened the business, I found out that I had depression and bipolar, and I didn't know what to do at first, because I was like, this isn't right. I'm crying every day for no reason. I feel like crap every day. So I went and I actually started seeing a therapist, who I still see to this day. She's amazing. Whenever you find the right one, you'll know and you'll stick with it. And she's like another support team that I have, and I just love her for it. But what I can say is that to anyone starting a business, it's going to be tough, and you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice literally everything you have. I mean, I didn't really have anything. I luckily had my mom to back me up and, you know, put a roof over my head. But you have to be willing to give up everything. If it means going out and hanging out with your friends in general, or like money, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of it, and you're going to have to put in so many hours of work. But honestly, if I could go back in time, and if, you know, past me was like, would you, you know, want to do this all over again? I'd say absolutely, it's worth it in the end. And I feel good about myself now, and yes, sometimes some days are hard because of my depression, but you gotta find something that, you know, like a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
That lights you up.
Right.
Doing this is your passion, right?
Right, and
Yeah.
I know that sounds like really typical and like cliche, but really that's what it is. And surround yourself with positive people. If people are putting you down about your business, or if they're laughing at you because they think it's stupid, you know, I'm sure the guy who created the Snuggie had plenty of friends that were like, that is the stupidest thing ever. No one's going to buy a backwards robe. But guess what? At least one person you know has bought it for somebody else that you know.
I have a bedazzled Snuggie. It was given to me as a gift. I love my Snuggie. I love it. All the bedazzles have fallen off, but I love my Snuggie. I think what you're bringing up is a really important point, and it's also a resounding theme here at Regis, which is the concept of community and service and giving back. I know that's one of the pillars at Regis. And, you know, talking a lot about what community means to you. You know, you spent a lot of time talking about the fact that your family is in and of itself a community. And I know from a wonderful article that you also recently wrote talking about that your employees, they're your family. They are a community. And when they are invested and they care, you talked a lot about in the article that there was some negative reviews that had come through on a particular product, I think. And at first you decided not to share those reviews with the employees. And then something happened and you decided to share the reviews with the employees. And I think that the employees had come to you and they had said, we want to know about the good, the bad, and the ugly because it makes us care more, right? And it makes us want to work harder to make sure that we don't get these negative reviews in the future. So I would like you to talk a little bit about, there's something, one of the pillars of Regis is service. They give, one of the requirements of the pillars is that the students give back and get very involved both on campus and off of campus, that much I know. And in one of your chapters you talk, there's a quote that says, it's in the giving that we receive. And, giving to, whether that's giving to your employees, whether that's giving of yourself to your family, or whether that's giving to some of the organizations. I know you're very active in veterans organizations and you give back. So if you could talk a little bit about the sense of community and what that means to you.
Well, we do a really awesome veterans, what would you call it, campaign. It's called Our Taste of Home. And on Veterans Day, what you can do is you can go onto our website and you can pledge a jar to a soldier. And I have I've made a lot of friends actually, which is really cool, with soldiers overseas. I probably will never meet them in real life, but I love every single one of them that I do get in contact with. And what we do is we ship them the jars that people can buy for them. I'm sorry.
So somebody will go on and they'll say, I'd like to send, 1 jar, 5 jars, however many.
Right.
And then the soldiers receive them and they know who sent them.
Yep, and we also get from local elementary, or any elementary school, we get hand-drawn cards that we include in it. And then the messages that people put online when they order the jars for them, we handwrite them out in all the cards.
What made you decide to sort of pick that particular initiative? Is there something in your life that was very special to you that made you want to pick that initiative?
Honestly, it was one day at the shop when we were in Cohasset, and a soldier reached out to us and was like, hey, I'm overseas and I'd love your product. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's gonna work, but if it does, will you let me know? And he said yes, and it was a very successful thing. And one of our older coworkers, Kat, came up with the idea, and we thought that's a great idea, we should do it.
That's great.
Yeah, so basically what we do is we run this open campaign, and it runs for 2 weeks, and people can order and pledge the jars, and then we get them over to Afghanistan, Iraq. We've sent them to Japan, to the Marine base, anywhere where someone is serving, and it's really a welcome taste of home, if you will. Another thing that we do is we have Pay It Forward Friday. So every Friday, we donate a portion of sales to a different charity, and that way we're encompassing a wide swath of charities rather than just picking 1 or 2. And a lot of times we'll ask our employees, what's important to you, what's special to you, and we will focus on or feature that specific charity for that week. And that's been really popular. And we've found in our data that a lot of people will wait and order on Friday so that they can contribute to the Pay It Forward Friday.
Wait, how many employees do you have?
We have 25 now.
25 employees.
Yep.
And you have the 1 commercial kitchen down in Cohasset?
It's now in Hanover. We just opened.
Hanover.
Yep, a 21,000 square foot facility in Hanover, which was really a big deal for us because before we were all crammed into 1,100 square feet in Cohasset, and it was just, we had outgrown that like the day after we aired on Shark Tank, so.
And the only retail space is still Faneuil Hall.
Faneuil Hall, and we have another commercial kitchen in Pennsylvania.
And didn't Shark Tank or ABC just recently feature that you sold your 1,000th cupcake recently? Was that at, where Kevin came and signed, you sold your...
Yeah, that was last July.
I'm sorry. They've now since sold 2 million. No, but that, and he was there and there was a big deal at Faneuil Hall, right? 1,000th cupcake, a million cupcakes.
We are the largest shipper of cupcakes in the United States now, at this point.
So besides the veterans, do you ship overseas otherwise? Or can anybody ship anywhere, basically? Does it really matter?
We only ship to APOs overseas, so that's all we're doing right now. But we are working on...
What's an APO?
It's a military base.
Military base,
okay.
yep. Sorry. That's okay. We have, actually, I just had a phone call yesterday. We're working on a franchising deal with the 6 Arab nations. So that is happening, and we have some licensing deals in Australia and Germany that are happening. So we will be international very soon, which is exciting.
That's like my biggest goal with this company.
That was your goal?
Yep, once we become, because I knew we could become national, so now that we're becoming international, I feel like this company is like, this is it.
Well, when you
Big
hit
deal.
that goal, are you going to ship to Mars, or, I mean, what are we going to do?
I'm just going to go live in Germany and run it there.
Tell me a little bit about whose idea was it to want to do the trucks and to franchise the trucks?
So that was my idea. We had done a segment on 2020 that was called The Art of the Sale, and Kevin was hidden in a van, and he had 3 college kids had to go out and try to sell our cupcake jars. And we had a cupcake truck in New York City, and no one knew that it was a television spot, so that was really interesting. And in an hour and a half, we sold 600 jars. So right there, that was kind of like, okay, this could be something. So we knew we wanted to franchise, but we didn't want to do brick and mortar. We wanted to do the trucks, and for a couple reasons. The trucks are really popular. People can actually drive to where business is, and they can control their business a little more, so they can either do a route or they can be hired to do an event, like a wedding or a festival. And we're also going to offer an affiliate program to our mobile franchisees. So if someone places a big order through them online, they'll get a percentage of the sales. So there was a lot of better opportunity, and the barrier to entry is a lot less expensive.
Are they up and running yet, or are you still in the
Not yet.
process?
We're in the process right now.
I think Regis needs a truck. I'm just saying. So some of you, now there's a lot of younger people in the audience, so some of you are not going to know what's behind me, but for those of you who are my contemporaries, does everybody know what this is right back here? I see a lot of people nodding yes. This is a vintage easy bake oven. So raise your hand if you know what this is. Oh, I feel good about that. So this vintage easy bake oven, back in the day, for the kiddos in the audience, the young adults, the millennials, back in the day when you were a kid, you could buy this easy bake oven, and they would give you, you know, like the batter, and you added water, and there was a little special light that I'm sure we all have some sort of food poisoning from this, there's no question about it, but you baked, and I put that in air quotes, you baked cakes in this little tray.
In these little trays, so you baked with a light bulb.
With a light bulb. I don't know how they actually baked, but and this is a vintage one. They came out with lots of versions of not Betty Crocker, it was the...
Kenner. Kenner was the original company.
Yeah, and then it was somebody else. Pillsbury Easy Bake, right? Yeah? So I had one, we all had one with the little light bulb. So Tracey and I were talking on the telephone the other day, and she told me that she went onto eBay and she got this vintage Easy Bake oven, and she told me why. And she told me is because it reminds her every day of where she came from, which I think is so fantastic. But she took it one step further, and this past week she posted the most amazing article that I couldn't retweet enough about. She talked about, the name of the article said, "And Don't Call Me Cupcake." And it was about gender bias in the workplace and being an entrepreneur and being a CEO as a female. And I thought that this is a really important theme for us to explore here this afternoon. We're going to round out with this theme because being an entrepreneur is hard enough. There still is gender bias in the workplace, of course, and being a female CEO sometimes can be like a double whammy. And in this article, she tells so many stories about how she is still floored to this day, still being the most successful deal that Kevin has and still having all these incredible metrics to support her business and the type of responses from certain people that she gets. Can you share a couple of the stories that are in this article, because they are remarkable?
So I've been very fortunate, and I was nominated as an I don't know if you're familiar with the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year competition, but I was a finalist for the last 3 years running. And this past year, I was at the gala with my husband, and if you can envision we're sort of back to back, and I'm speaking to a lovely woman, and he is talking to another gentleman. And I just, because I listen to everything my husband says, I happened to catch out of the corner of my ear this gentleman saying to my husband, "No, really, so you're the brains of the operation, right?" And my husband, I know my husband so well, I could tell he was appalled because he sort of stalled before he answered. And he was very tactful and said, "Well, no, we all have our jobs. Dani has her job, Tracey has her job, I have my job. We all work together as a team." And the gentleman said it again. So, but really, you are the brains of the operation. You grew this business. And now this poor woman's talking. I'm not listening to a word she's saying because I'm so incensed, and I want to turn around. And my husband wraps up the conversation with this gentleman, who then walks around and says to me, "Nice to meet you. You look so lovely tonight," and walked away. And I was like, "What?" So that was fine.
It's alive and well,
Yeah,
sadly.
exactly. We sit down at our table, and a professor from a university in Massachusetts comes over, and he sits next to me, and he's all excited, and he says, "You have to introduce me to Kevin O'Leary. You have to introduce me to Kevin O'Leary. I want him to speak to my class of women entrepreneurs. He'll be so inspiring." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm a finalist here. I built this business with my daughter. I was so angry."
You said, "I have lady parts. Shouldn't I speak to the ladies?" Is that what you wanted to say to this man?
I just felt like, I don't know, is it me? And I really never noticed it before. I mean, yeah, I'd go to networking events, and the reason I got the Easy Bake Oven was I had this picture in my mind of, and I hate to say it, a lot of the gentlemen at these networking events picturing us in pink polka dot aprons, baking cupcakes with an Easy Bake Oven. Because let's face it, when you start a business that is home-based and kind of crafty and slanted more female, you tend to get that patronizing response when you tell people, I own a cupcake business. Now, quite honestly, we're a gifting company, and food and gifting is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The stratosphere is our limit. I mean, what we can do with this company is unbelievable, and what we are in the process of working on right now would blow your minds. It's amazing. But yet, people don't seem to see that. They hear the word cupcake, and they hear the word bake, and it just gets, I don't know, it's
sad, but it's real, and it's something out there that you need to be prepared for and armed with. And for the women in the audience, you need to be prepared for it, and for the men in the audience, right? Not that I'm saying that you would ever approach anybody in that same fashion, but to be cognizant of it and to help combat it, I think, is another sense of community and service, if you will. Which is a great segue for a couple of questions that I want to ask, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience. We have a microphone that we're going to circulate with people who want to ask questions of Tracey and Dani for the last few minutes. But I would like for both of you, if you could please share your very favorite part of being an entrepreneur or this particular journey of Wicked Good. Can you share one aspect that you feel is your favorite part, each of you?
Want me to start? I like to think as a mom, and I will always be a mom first, even though I have this fabulous business. Wicked Good is a success, but my biggest success has been my daughter Dani. And watching her grow from this 21-year-old who, while we were filming Shark Tank, wanted to know what in perpetuity meant in the hall, to someone who handles and manages inventory and employees and does what she does every day. I'm so blessed and grateful and feel like, yeah, the company's great, but you truly are my biggest success. So thank you for that.
Tracey has tissues up here, and now I know why. Would you like to share? Your favorite part of the journey or being an entrepreneur? And maybe there are too many to mention. That's okay too.
There is too many to mention. I mean, every year I feel like is a new adventure for Wicked Good, and some of the things that we do I can't actually even believe that me and her were able to pull it off sometimes, because sometimes we're all over the place. But I mean, I love the whole experience of it all. Being an entrepreneur is incredible. It's so I want to say free. It's awesome. And to spend time with my stepdad and my mom and being able to do this all together and go on all these amazing journeys that we do is just awesome. And I feel like our bond is getting stronger and stronger. And she's teaching me things that I don't feel like I could have learned anywhere else. I don't think I could have had a better support team or a better boss or whatever you want to call it. But I honestly...
Business partner.
That is true. I do sometimes tell you what to do.
It's like a school unto itself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the school of hard knocks. I mean, I feel like I'm learning things that I wouldn't be able to learn anywhere else, and learning and having a good, like I said, a good support team with her. Like, even though sometimes I feel like we're not going to be able to do this, she at least, pulls me up back, slaps me across the face a few times, and if we do it, we get it done. And being able to share it with her is just awesome.
Can you both share either one failure that you've experienced that's been particularly challenging from a business perspective, or a particularly, just one big challenge, or your least favorite part, or scariest part about the journey or being an entrepreneur?
I have two. I think one of our biggest mistakes we did was after being on Shark Tank, we did not set up a good customer service team. For example, we were getting phone calls, and we only had one line, and you would answer one email and you'd get 100 more in, and
you weren't ready for the onslaught.
No.
Did you just not even envision that kind of response would even take place?
We were ready in every other department except customer
Interesting.
service.
Yeah, technology-wise, we were the first website not to crash in Shark Tank history, like when the orders started to come in, because you sit there on Friday night and you watch, and the spike, like the numbers start spinning.
Meaning after you get your deal, you just...
Yeah.
Just while your episode is airing.
Oh my
while your
God.
episode is airing. And it happens several times because you air in different time zones.
Oh my God.
What we did wrong was we were ready to be an e-commerce business, but we forgot that people were still going to want to talk to us. So we didn't have a good phone support system.
The infrastructure.
The infrastructure was not there. So when we came in the next day, as Dani said, you'd be trying to listen to phone messages, and as you were listening to one message, 5 more messages would ring in. So it literally took us days to plow through all the voicemails, and of course you had very unhappy people because you weren't getting back to them right away.
And customer service is everything, right? I mean, the product has to be good, but
Absolutely.
if you're going to be, if you're going to anger your customers, they're not going to come back for your product. Well, you're not going to get off the hook, because the final question, which is my signature question, is we'd love for each of you, before we take questions from the audience, to please share something that the audience would be surprised to learn about each of you. Like building your own igloo or something of that ilk. I know one for Tracey, but I don't know if it's what you shared it with me on the telephone.
I play the drums, and I'm learning Italian.
You have a rock band, you do the nursing home circuit.
Yeah, we do.
Yep,
We
I
play
love
at
that.
nursing homes. We're the Wicked Mediocres. Actually, we have another name, but
I love that. Yeah, she shared that with me, and I said, I can totally see you. And then you posted something, like a little video or something.
We
I saw
did.
it. It's fantastic.
We do. We play at nursing homes, and we play at schools for special needs, and it's just awesome. It's so much fun.
That's fantastic. Dani, how about you?
I was thinking about this earlier when everyone else was going. I don't really know.
Can I ask you about your tattoos? Because they're
Shoot.
beautiful. Do they have meaningful stories behind them? Are they?
A lot of them do. I actually have the semicolon tattoo, which is awareness for depression.
Nice.
My wedding ring is also tattooed on, because in the bakery when I had an engagement ring, I lost it like every day because I was.
So one
washing
of you
my
lucky
hands.
people has a wedding ring in your cupcake. That's the surprise twist for this afternoon.
I've been getting tattoos since I was 18. I hid my first one from Mom for a whole year on my back.
Did you draw all of those yourself?
No, a couple of them I did. I have a mason jar on the back of my leg for my best friend. We got because she did work with me for 3 years, I believe. And we love puns, so she has a cat in hers that says best fishes, and mine has an alligator skull because she's always wanted to go to Australia, and it says stay sharp on it.
Nice.
So a lot of them had meetings, some of them were just like, yeah, just slap that on and we'll see what happens. So, and I have cupcake tattoos on my hips, so yes.
Well, there you go. We would not know that about you because we can't see all of them, but they are beautiful.
Thank you.
I bet you we have some wonderful questions from the audience, so don't be shy. Just raise your hand, and Chris is going to go ahead and get you the microphone. Come on now, don't be shy. Jim, my good friend Jim over there, he's got a question.
Thanks for sharing the struggles, because that's the part that people don't hear about it because they see it on television.
Mm-hmm.
It's all glamorous now. Lots of times businesses have a moment where they want to quit. Did you have a moment along the way where you thought, we can't do this anymore? We're going to
Mom quit the first day.
I actually quit by 2 p.m. the first day we opened the shop. True story. My in-laws were with us and they were washing dishes. I will never forget this. And it was like this never-ending line of people, and I just was overwhelmed. I was thinking, oh my God, we have to do this again tomorrow. So I went out back and said, I quit. And my mother-in-law came out and talked to me, and within 15 minutes, I joined the team again. But yes.
We're really glad that you did, Tracey. Let's give a big hand to Tracey for rejoining the team. We're glad you did. Do we have another question? I know we have some blossoming bakers in the audience, I happen to know. So if those blossoming bakers also want to ask a question. Gia?
Hi. So you were saying earlier that when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to give up everything, which I was able to relate to because I own my own business with my husband, so we have a lot in common. Did you find at a point that you had to get away from the baking because you were running the business? So did you have to give that up, which is the hobby that you guys started with to begin with?
Right. So she started off as a decorator, and I started off as baking. And I think it was a little bit after Shark Tank that we both had to step away from our positions and do something else. I became like the manager of Cohasset, and I handled a lot of the shipping, like packing the orders, quality control, making sure the jars are perfect, and shipping them out. And to be honest, that's what I do now in our new facility, and I love it. I do miss baking, but to be honest, I don't think I could go back to it, only because the scale of what we do I'd have to relearn everything all over again, and I feel like that would slow everybody down. So for the sake of my baking team, I'll just stick in my shipping department.
This is really funny and kind of sad, and I will admit this, but we hired an executive pastry chef with 40 years experience, and now when I need something, he just does it for me. So,
Do you have a favorite flavor of your own cupcakes?
I've been kind of addicted to our cookies and cream. At least recently, I kind of go through like every couple of months, I gotta try something new.
What about you?
definitely the flourless chocolate brownie with peanut butter frosting is my favorite.
Is there a bestseller flavor?
It used to be our Wicked Good, our signature flavor, but our top 4 are Wicked Good, Red Velvet, Chocolate Lab, and Salted Caramel.
Which are all here today, I'm pretty sure. There were some other questions you had? I think in front, Kelly has a question.
Two questions. One is a lot of bakers, I think this is a serious question, are huge. Why are you like office and tasting all? One, how are you both the size that you are?
That's an excellent question.
And then I'll ask the second question after you answer.
I'll start. When we first opened, I gained a lot of weight because I kept eating all the batter and all the product. I used to have stuff in jars, and I would write on the lid, "You don't need it," and I'd open it and be like, "Yeah, I do," and inside it would be like, "No, fatty, you don't need it." And so it was kind of hard on myself, but you know what? It's after you've been around it for so long, I personally lose interest in it. I like salty snacks now, like way more than cupcakes. But I don't know, I've just kind of gotten over it in a way, but that's okay because now I don't eat all the product anymore, so that works out.
I actually was very fortunate. For a long time, I could eat whatever I wanted and I didn't gain weight. Interestingly enough, when my parents moved into the house and we had everyone living there and all the stress, I put a lot of weight on. So since this past January till now, I've lost 35 pounds. And I did it using Nutrisystem, shameless plug. I still eat our product. I love it. I could eat it every day, especially our frosting. But I limit myself.
And then my second question is, so I've been thinking about this food truck, right? And so, I mean, it's just an honest question. Do you worry if you're the food truck and then there's an ice cream truck, it's a premium product that you may not mind spending the money to send to somebody who's had a baby or gets diagnosed with cancer or something as a gift? Do you worry, like I'm a mom and my 4 kids want to eat all these cupcakes, is there a premium price point does that make you nervous?
It doesn't, because we obviously have spent a lot of time researching this, and we've based a lot of our research on our Faneuil Hall kiosk, and people do not mind spending the money on a quality product. So we found when you go to a festival, you're kind of held hostage anyway, and when you go to Gillette Stadium, you're going to spend $7 on a beer, right? Or $8 on a hot dog. So people will pay our normal, our average retail price, which is $7.25 a jar.
Are there any other questions? Oh, we have a couple of them. Yep.
Hi, ladies. Do you have any organic products or what do they call it, gluten-free?
We do have gluten-free, but
Yeah, we do have gluten-free. We don't put preservatives in our product. Our product shelf life was tested at a food safety lab. Anyone who goes into a food business needs to know, A, you need to be Serve Safe certified, and your product needs to be tested for food safety. It's really interesting because a lot of people have sprung up and started doing this business since we've done it, and they're not accurately labeling the product. And if you look, you'll look at our cupcake jars and you'll see on the side, it looks like we had preservatives, but actually that's preservatives that are already in the product we buy. So if you buy a bag of flour and then you look at the ingredients, we by law have to list all of what's called sub-ingredients on the label. So we have nothing that's organic. We use like King Arthur flour, and whatever King Arthur flour puts in their flour, we have to list.
One last question in the front here.
Actually, I have 2 questions.
Oh, 2 last questions.
Sorry.
No, it's
One
great.
of them, do you send out anything for diabetics? Do you make any recipes for diabetics?
Interestingly, we have been working on some low sugar and sugar-free products, so that may be something that happens down the road. We've had some really good success with that. I've been working on some recipes, so that's something to look forward to. It takes a while to bring new product to the market because there's a lot of research and things that have to be done beforehand, but we do have a lot of requests for lower sugar, absolutely.
Okay, and my second question is, was very interested about cupcakes that you're mailing overseas to the soldiers. How long is that, something like that, how long is from when you make it till it gets sent out to them and they receive it?
we bake them and ship them that day. And it's a little different depending on believe it or not, the bases, but they get there within the shelf life time, which is 7 to 10 days. And to be honest, I mean, even if they arrived a little rattled or anything like that, they're happy to get them because they don't really get anything great out there. So getting one of our packages is a big deal to them.
Like we have pie jars now, and the shelf life is actually longer on the pie jars. We had those tested, and the testing that we do is obviously for food safety, but we put the 7 to 10 day shelf life on it for maximum freshness more than for anything else. Does that make sense? So the jars actually could last 3 weeks. You can open a jar and it's still fine, you can still eat it. But especially with a vanilla-based cake, for whatever reason, vanilla cake tends to dry out faster than chocolate cake. So for the sake of the vanilla-based cakes, we put a 7 to 10 day shelf life on the product.
Thank you.
Oh, the photographer has a question. Meryl, come on over here, Meryl, with you.
What about R&D, like percentage of your, budget, et cetera, goes into there? What kind of R&D work do you do?
So for research and development, this is a really good question because, and I'll try to be brief. When we started the business, and we had our regular cupcake shop, we might have 15 flavors of cupcakes in the case. And someone would come in and they would say, "Is that all you have?" And then they'd buy vanilla. So, and it would frustrate the crap out of me.
She would have to leave the room.
Yeah, I'd have 15 amazing flavors, and they would say that and buy a vanilla cupcake. What we did was we learned early on that basically our core product is the cupcake jar, and the core flavors are chocolate and vanilla. So for R&D, anything that we do is generally based off of those two flavors. So we might have, for vanilla, we have cookies and cream, we have vanilla birthday, we have salted caramel, we have a marble, which is chocolate and vanilla. So we try to keep things in the flavor families. Now, of course, we have seasonal, so this time of year we have pumpkin, and we have like an apple streusel with caramel. Seasonal, we will spend more time developing and having different flavors, but the core of our business is based on desserts and mason jars and the flavors that are most popular. We had a sweet potato cupcake that was to die for, but getting someone to buy a sweet potato cupcake is just, it's too much of a challenge. So
Nobody wants a health food cupcake.
Oh, it was so delicious.
Right?
So delicious.
No, I know, but mentally,
Yeah,
right? They're
I
probably,
mean,
yeah.
People want to spend money on what they know they're going to like. Or if they're sending it as a gift, which is 85% of our business, they want to send what they think people will like. So we can't be on that bridge too far, if you will.
And the last question from Dr. Kara.
I wanted to know how you recruit for your positions and find people for the best fit for your company and how you retain them.
Great question.
So we have some employees who have actually been with us since day one, which is amazing because in the food industry, it's a very transitive business, and there's a lot of turnover. A lot of people who come in are word of mouth recommendations. Like, take for example Peter, who's our executive pastry chef. He's brought in several people who went to Johnson & Wales, which was the school he went to, people he's worked with. We get a lot of people that way, and quite honestly, Craigslist.
Craigslist, really?
Yep.
That's fascinating.
We do really well with Craigslist.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, isn't that amazing? Employee retention, I mean, obviously word of mouth and referral, right? You would think it'd be the best, but I would not have guessed Craigslist. That's true. Before we wrap up, one housekeeping item, just so that I can get it out there. All of you have registered for one of the 2 breakout sessions, and I just want to give you a little bit of heads up of where we're going. If you're coming to my session, which is Getting Past Hello, teaching you all about networking, that's in College Hall, room 202. And if you're going to Nick Blamtis's LinkedIn session, that is in Maria Multipurpose Room. And what we're going to do is, for those of you who are going to Maria Multipurpose Room, please do exit through those doors. And for those of you coming to my session, we're going to open this up, and please do come this way. This has been the best way to spend a Friday afternoon. Do you all agree? I hope you had a good time. I hope everybody learned something here. If we could please give a standing ovation to our fabulous guests of honor, Tracey and Dani of Wicked Good Cupcakes. Thank you so much.